You're listening to this episode on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Hit that subscribe button and leave us a comment. It would greatly benefit the show.
Dun, 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 dun. Join me in the song.
I don't know the rhythm of it.
It's easy. Dun, 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 dun.
They didn't play that a single time in the movie.
They played versions of it, yeah. And then when they did the opening credits too far into the movie, yes, they did do that.
Hello and welcome back to Movie Vaders with the Farx brothers. We are doing a walk and talk on Mission Impossible 8, Final Reckoning.
You mean Dead Reckoning Part 2?
Yeah, Dead Reckoning Part 2.
Because there's Dead Reckoning Part 1, so why wouldn't there be a...
I don't even understand the title. Why was it originally Dead Reckoning?
Because they had to reckon with dead thing. I don't know. The computer's not alive. It's dead. Yeah, they're fighting a computer.
I think my biggest complaint is the vagueness of what the entity does. If we stop the entity, it will destroy cyberspace. But cyberspace existed before the entity, so it would probably exist afterwards, right? I mean, it's science mumbo jumbo. There's
the notion that in generative artificial intelligence, GAI, is that what they say? Artificial AGI, artificial generative intelligence. So like you and I can generate new thoughts. AI, as we know it today or has been released to the public, can only sort of reach the asymptote of all,
Asymptote?
Yeah, like where the curve of a line touches the line. That's like asymptotally.
I don't even know what asymptote means.
I'm pretty sure I'm using this is geometry, my friend. Weren't you good at math in school?
I was bad at math, yeah.
Oh, you were bad?
Yeah, I'm one of those Asians who can't do math.
Whoa, brother. I'm one of those Asians that can do math very well. Brother here. Wait, did you say Movie Vaders with the Farx brothers?
Yeah, I did. Movie Vaders with the Farx brothers. I'm Kirk.
I'm Kyle.
Yeah. So, these walk and talks are hard to do introductions. We're just talking. Yeah.
We are just talking. What city do you think the president decided to blow up so that the rest of the world would be okay with them blowing up their major nuclear centers, which apparently it really got me to think about which countries have nukes.
Yeah, well, it can't be New York. It's too big. They also consider population and economic
viability.
Yeah. Detroit? Yeah.
No, because why would a foreign the point of blowing up the president blowing up an American city while they're blowing up the nuclear hubs of the other countries that have nukes is that they want the other countries to think they're not the ones that blew up, but they would know because all the other countries, well, I guess they probably wouldn't know that their information would be compromised since the entity had taken over their nukes, I guess.
Yeah.
It's very vague. And then when he's in the submarine, and I assumed those were all nuclear torpedoes, but I guess they were just torpedoes.
I mean, they've been down there for a while. They're not, they can't explode, right?
I don't know. I've seen submarine movies where there's explosions because they shoot, in World War II, they were shooting torpedoes at each other and blowing each other. I guess, I don't know how long that's, and sometimes maybe it's like battery acid where it sits around after a while and it gets worse.
Who was that guy supposed to be? They were talking about the Russian team that came after the 2012 happened. The submarine got hit and went into the water, but then a team came into that dude's house.
Oh, that was Carrie Ells' character from Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, because you see him at the CIA get gassed when Ethan Hunt from Madison, Wisconsin sneaks in as Kittredge's assistant.
Oh, okay. Huh.
Carrie Ells was there. So I guess that's tying everything together. And I don't know what the hell Carrie Ells' character was. And
how come Vanessa Kirby was in this one?
She dies in the last one.
What? She died?
Didn't Vanessa Kirby's character die?
Don't remember her dying.
Well, and the real reason is because she was making Fantastic Four First Steps while they were making this movie. And this movie cost $300 million.
Ooh.
Yeah. because
A lot of money.
there's a lot of retooling and
It's Tom Cruise's insurance, right? Most of it.
yeah, it's $100 million movie with a $200 million
Yeah.
insurance policy.
Make sure he doesn't die doing those stunts.
Yeah, again, like I would strongly recommend people not go see this movie in the movie theater unless they're specifically seeing it in IMAX. And we're not a review show, we're a bait show, and we're struggling to.
Well, here's bait. Do you think this was his best stunt work?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Fallout. He jumped out of a plane over 100 times, and they stitched those shots together to make it look like one shot. Nothing has beaten Fallout that they've done in these two movies that they spent like, I think, more than 2.5 times what they spent on Fallout.
It's crazy though. I mean, what stunt would have outdid that one? Like him flying a plane, him jumping off a mountain on a bike.
So
Something else.
Yeah, the bike stunt was lame, and they spoiled it. Whereas at least they didn't spoil. Well, we knew he was always going to have to go down to a submarine, but I at least thought those scenes were interesting, and they were all shot in IMAX. And all the IMAX stuff looks good. Basically, if it's not in IMAX, you can get up and go pee because there's Tom Cruise is running to go talk to Ving Rhames one last time to get information he does not need and is really just wasting time. Kind of like the movie is wasting your time. It could have been 2 hours, 15 minutes probably.
Yeah, how long was that movie? Like
2 hours, 45 minutes or something like that.
Dang, a 3-hour movie?
It's like a 3-hour movie, and it was too. See, we're not gonna have good baits because we both were like, yeah, it's too long. Action sequences were good. Well, okay, which did you like better, the submarine or the airplane sequence? I'll take the other one.
I like the airplane.
I like the submarine better because it was more existentially dreadful and made me think of Gravity a lot. The movie Gravity with Sandra Bullock.
Yeah, but the only problem is I knew there was also a plane coming up, so obviously Tom Cruise is gonna survive this submarine.
Because we're sitting in a pre-screening with a big picture of Tom Cruise on the yellow plane. So even when he's on the red plane, we know, oh, here's someone with very well endowed and driving in circles in this parking lot. That was not, well, let's see if they can pull off a donut. Come on, Tom Cruise, do a donut for us. Do a donut for us.
There he goes.
No.
No.
That lame. You suck. That was a lame way to park.
Oh, he did all that just park?
Yeah, I think they just spun in circles. No, now he goes again. This is honestly more entertaining to me than any of the non-IMAX parts. What's going to happen? What's this guy's motivation?
Yeah,
or gal.
Here?
Could be a woman driving irresponsibly.
Preparing for Fast and Furious 11?
X part 10 or part 2. See, I hope they commit to the part 2 in that one. One of the things they said about Dead Reckoning part 1, because this was Final Reckoning, is that they were the only ones with the balls to put part 1 in their title when they did it. And like Fast and Furious X didn't do it that year. And there was another part 1 movie that came out and we're waiting for another part. Maybe it was a Marvel movie. Doesn't matter. The point just being,
Wait, what? Other one had part 1 in it. Isn't that a Marvel movie?
I'm trying to remember back to the summer that Fast X Part 1 and Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 came out.
What year was that?
2022, I believe. And it was 2023 because it was the summer of Barbenheimer. And because Tom Cruise refused to move his release date, he couldn't get the IMAX screens for as long as he wanted to. So I can't remember if I was with you, but we went to go see the movie in IMAX, and I was upset because there weren't any IMAX sequences in a movie.
Oh, yeah. I remember that, yeah.
So, like, Mission Impossible has done the impossible and made itself seem inessential and not like a movie series, much more like TV, which it originally was based on, because I don't know. But Tom Cruise's vanity over not moving his release date because
He shot himself in the foot?
Yeah,
they
were talking about that in 2 years ago when it came out. Like, oh, why wouldn't he just move his release date up a week and then not conflict with Barbenheimer? Although I can see how Mission Impossible is going to do so much better than the toy doll movie and the historic drama about the guy who invented the nuclear weapon.
But that's betting like against Christopher Nolan, though. That's crazy.
Okay, here's why Tom Cruise, but you could say this about Daniel Day-Lewis too, is like, Tom Cruise has never worked with Christopher Nolan. It kind of makes me wonder, like, you know, What's Tom Cruise's deal that he can't get with Christopher Nolan, you know?
What movie was Daniel Day-Lewis in with Christopher Nolan?
Nothing. I'm saying they both have that, and they don't work with a bunch of interesting directors. Tom Cruise at this point in his career works with Christopher McQuarrie, Joseph Kosinski, I think this is the guy's name, who directed Top Gun Maverick. And while I enjoy those movies, and obviously very talented directors directing big action movies, I'm not sure I could put my finger exactly on what their unique and distinct style as an auteur would be. Not that they have to have that.
Any. Yeah, they don't have it. They wouldn't need that for an action movie. I think the action speaks for itself.
Yeah, you'd think that. But in this movie, I got bored sometimes, and it was in between the action. So again, the subsequence, you didn't make an argument for why the plane sequence is better than the subsequence.
I think it had a lot more ridiculous moments, like him knocking, I don't know why he knocked out that guy, the pilot, in the red one, right? He gets on the red one, and he knocks out the pilot, and then the pilot just flies out of the plane.
Well, no, he made him fall out because you don't keep the guy. You don't you're not precious about these people. They tried to kill you, and they intend to kill you and run the world. So yeah, if you can let him fall out of a plane, you let him fall out of a plane.
I think the sequence is a lot more fun with the planes and him trying to, fight the force of gravity and the speed of how fast the planes were going.
Counterpoint. The plane sequences were sillier, whereas it wasn't silly when he was in the submarine and going down to the submarine, even though you knew, well, we're an hour and a half into this 2 hour and 45-minute movie. If he dies now, it's going to be really interesting what they do with the next hour of the movie. But
well, I thought it might have ruined the movie if he had actually died and everything he experiences afterwards is just the entity giving him that, you found your peace, you died, but I'm going to give you this last thing just so that,
That would be a way more interesting movie, but you can understand why Tom Cruise, the movie star, wouldn't do that. Just like it would be a much more interesting movie if he did die and we saw him splat on the ground because his second parachute didn't open up which also didn't make sense because he said, I'm the only one with a parachute. And then apparently there was a second parachute. There must have been another parachute in the other seat.
I think the bad guy, was thinking that the plane was going to go down and Tom Cruise didn't have time to get a parachute on or something.
My suspension of disbelief had been broken by that point because once Tom Cruise rips off Ethan Hunt from Madison, Wisconsin, who's born in 1964, meaning canonically he's 62 in the movie.
Whoa.
Well, yeah.
Dang, okay.
Because they keep referring to it as being like 2026, as they say 30 years ago to 1996, which is when the first Mission Impossible came out.
Dang, 62 running around like that?
Here's another thing, is that, and spoilers for No Time to Die, James Bond, which, again, if you were going to see it, you would have seen it by now, kind of thing. At least James Bond has the decency to fucking die in a movie, whereas Ethan Hunt, fucking end this shit. It's gone on too long.
I thought they were going to definitively end it, but it's might continue. Who knows?
If they make a 9th Mission Impossible movie, I will probably go see it. But here's what I really want to happen to make me want to go see it. I want Tom Cruise to die making it. Not because I want Tom Cruise to die, but because it, like I was saying before the movie started, Heath Ledger dying helped The Dark Knight. You can't say it didn't. We only live in the reality where he died and the movie did really well.
He died after the movie came out.
Oh, yeah, because an Olsen twin gave him bad drugs. But
I don't think they can release a movie if Tom Cruise died making that movie.
So either Tom Cruise dies making the movie and somehow they finish it, or they kill Ethan Hunt at the end of the movie.
They should have. Yeah, he should have died. And then Jeremy Renner comes in and takes his spot. I don't know. Do people not like Jeremy Renner?
I like Jeremy Renner.
Like, what the hell? I also heard that interview why we're not getting season 2 of Hawkeye because they didn't offer him enough money.
Wait, you heard him on Joe Rogan?
No. There was an interview. I don't know who he was interviewing with.
I'm pretty sure that's a Joe Rogan interview.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because he was on Joe Rogan, and I couldn't even bring myself to listen to it, and I like Jeremy Renner, but I don't know. It seemed like it would be boring.
You don't listen to every Joe Rogan episode?
No. Only if he has a very interesting guest, and I'm willing to, know that, over the next 2 days while I'm driving to and fro, because it can't be when my kids are in the car since he swears too much, I will listen to this. Or
I
when I'm
also
on my
don't know
long
how they
walks.
talk for like 3 hours. That's a real long time for one podcast.
I mean, we've talked for 3 hours many times, but
yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
you get more interesting things around hour 2 of a
Hour
conversation.
2. The one I just started at hour 2, right?
Because you need to get people into, lull
Get
them into a
comfortable?
sense of security. That's why we do the interview portion before we do the movie bait, because then mostly I'm more comfortable with them, and I hope that they're more comfortable in the space they're in. Whereas if we jumped right into, okay, now we're going to debate this movie, and you got it. But by that point, they're usually, oh, I kind of get what this is. It's just a conversation, to quote one of our previous guests.
The vibe we're going for.
Yes, the vibe we're going for. Man, just, it feels really sad to say this $300 million movie disappointed me, but it did. And I'm not strongly recommending it to anyone other than maybe former Farx Nick, because I want his thoughts on how they did some of the action sequences. And roommate girlfriend, this is probably the kind of movie she likes. So I don't know, we'll have to follow up with him. This will be what makes me follow up with him about whether or not.
Yeah, because she watches Fast and Furious, right?
She does.
Yeah.
She's cool. She's an intelligent person who, is that a cop? That's not a cop.
No, but it's parked really weird.
Yeah, it's parked like a cop. Could be security. I don't think it's kind of got computers like a cop. I don't know. Maybe they're looking for the people doing donuts. What are your deep and final thoughts?
I don't know. Even though it didn't end well, I don't think I have an itch to see another Mission Impossible movie after this.
Yeah, I think that is the very, very sad thing that Tom Cruise has done, is driven this franchise into the ground like he couldn't do with Ethan Hunt. Just let him die, man. He saves the entire world, and then it would actually be way more interesting to think about a future Mission Impossible movie where Tom Cruise is dead and Simon Pegg and Haley Atwell have this computer thing that you could run the entire world's internet with. And what do you do with that? I would be very interested in that movie, but every Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise is going to be handicapped by the things that Tom Cruise requires. So remember in the last episode when you made fun of local screenwriter who wrote a Tom Cruise movie?
Wow, I was going to edit that out. Now you call it back to it.
I don't care. If he were to come on the show, what I'd want to ask is like, so did you talk to Tom Cruise? And I know you probably legally can't say what things you have to put in a movie because Tom Cruise is there. Or maybe you can, I don't know. But what I imagine is the movie is handicapped by his presence in it, because it's like, well, The Rock has to throw as many punches as...
I was going to bring that up. Bring up the fact that The Rock and Vin Diesel...
Jason Statham?
Yeah, and Jason Statham, they can't lose a fight, right, technically?
Yes, and that's dumb. It makes the movie less interesting.
That's wild. I can't believe you put that in your contract.
I think that's for these movies appealing more overseas, where might makes right. And, civilization is the only thing that makes it so that might being right isn't the, what rules the day, let's say. Well, there's the quote that we don't know how World War III will be fought, but we know World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones.
Why is it handicapped by Tom Cruise? Does he has to save the day, or?
He's got no sexual charisma, and he can never look bad. The only thing that made Edge of Tomorrow good was you got to watch Tom Cruise die over and over, which is very satisfying.
You like to see Tom Cruise die?
Yeah. The only thing that keeps The Last Samurai from being a great movie, while it's a good movie, is that Tom Cruise doesn't die in the end and Ken Watanabe does.
Well, that's the whole point. He's the last samurai. It's not Tom Cruise, it's
Ken Watanabe is the last samurai.
Because he dies on the field.
Was that the thought you were looking for?
Yeah, I should say it was.
What? No. Okay. So what cities? let's go down. Wait, we talked a little bit. This is Detroit. Can't be Detroit. I think actually Minneapolis and St. Paul could be on the list.
Oh, all right.
Because we have a top 15 airport. So we're within the top 15 cities in a 50-state country. It's got to be in the contiguous United States. But you could blow up Honolulu maybe, because you could argue that we have nuclear facilities and stuff out there it's terrible. You shouldn't do that, obviously. But they present that idea in this movie. And what really depresses me is that I have the same sort of depression I had coming out of Sinners, is that the dark thoughts this movie leads me to of like, yeah, it is kind of fucked that the entire world is maybe on a hair's edge of destroying itself at any point because India and Pakistan last week got into hey, maybe we're going to start a nuclear war. And what India thought was they were going to get the backing of the United States, like the United States gives to Israel. And the United States was like, no. We do that for Israel because the other guys don't have nukes. See, Pakistan has nukes, so we can't do that with them. We live in a multipolar world. Sorry, India.
Yeah, but you just got to think about Ethan Hunt. He'll save the world and we just won't know.
Honestly, it strategically doesn't make sense to me that Israel has nukes because they're such a small country that they could easily, without that Iron Dome that we pay for, I mean, they'd kind of be, it's a state, it's a country the size of like one of our states. So yeah, at least in Russia, they have a bunch of landmass to protect.
But it's freezing in Russia.
Yeah. And that's, why they have nukes in cold places because they're harder to get to.
The nukes keep them warm. I mean, I don't know.
Not how that works. That's how you end up with 3 eyes or 8 toes on one foot,
Chernobyl. Well, I think that's a great place to end it.
The imagery in this movie of the world being destroyed shown over and over. Right now, within 24 hours of us seeing it and walking around talking about it, just happened in Cannes, France. Because it's showing at the Cannes Film Festival. I honestly can't wait to read reactions that like the Europeans are like, fuck this shit. This is the problem with America, fuck you guys.
I kind of hope they blew up the world. It would have been a little bit more interesting. Imagine Mission Impossible. Post-apocalyptic. Yeah.
Then my mom wouldn't love it as much as she's gonna go,
She big Mission Impossible fan?
It's another movie where people get shot and there's no blood, which makes it's boring. Like, I'll accept that in a Marvel movie, but at least when the bad guy hit his head on the tailspin and there was blood, that made me happy.
That was so ridiculous. That took me completely out of the movie.
Yeah, that's why the submarine scene's better. Winner of the bait.
No,
winner of the bait.
It's too long.
Bait winner.
This whole movie is too long. And let's not make this podcast too long either. So I think we can wrap it up there. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening. For more on JK Productions, find us on Instagram at JK Productions Team and on Facebook, JK Productions MN. Join us next time for another bait.